Hey guys, we're going to be looking at Unit 5 for our Introduction to Law. You'll notice that I am not uploading Unit 4. Reason being is because if you look in your textbook, Unit 4 is, if you count with me, 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. And for me, that's just super easy to go through. It's really just if you can go through what's on page 64 and 65, the feedback from the questions, then you really be good to go. So I'm not going to go through learning unit 4, and we're going to move on to the more intricate things like learning unit 5, which is our divisions of law. Like I said, it is quite intricate. It is, there's a lot of terminology that you need to know for this learning unit, but once you get it and you grasp it, then it's really fun and kind of cool to know all the different divisions and to go through the activities and know, like, hey, this is this and this is this, and kind of put everything into place. So it's really cool. Once you know, you just really have to study the terminology. Anyways, let's get to it. So there are divisions of law: public law, private law, and other areas of law. I'm not going to run you through everything that's on my screen right now, because as we go through, we're going to go through each one of them. So public law and private law is our main divisions, and then we get other areas of law. As you can see, we have divisions, subdivisions, and further subdivisions. Yeah. Okay. The main divisions of South African law are public and private law, as I've said. Public law deals with relationships between the state and the individual. So when you're dealing with something that is under public law, it's a relationship between you as the individual and the state. So public law normally deals with the interests of the community. Public international law, relationships between states. Example of this is the law of international organizations, such as the United Nations, and the law of international treaties. Constitutional law. This is considered the institution of the state, which is how the state is formed and its organizations. If you see any spelling errors, I'm so sorry. I haven't really been well these past few weeks, reason as to why I haven't posted, but I will read through it and you'll realize it's a spelling error. Sorry about that. Then constitutional law governs the powers of the organs of the state, organs such as parliament, the courts, and the cabinet. Administrative law controls administration of the state. So it controls the way the state bodies, departments, numerous boards like the licensing boards, and the ministers exercise their powers unfairly and arbitrarily without motivation. Then we look at criminal law. States which acts are seen as crimes, which acts are not seen as crimes, and what are the penalties imposed by the state for committing these crimes, and also provides a legal definition of each act regarded as a crime. Prescribes certain elements for a crime, act or action or omission, failure to act that is against the law. So an action is an act, omission is failure to act. So kind of opposites. Accused was at fault. Law of procedure has 3 subdivisions: law of civil procedure, law of criminal procedure, and law of evidence. Law of civil procedure is the process followed when bringing private law disputes before the court. Example is how a summons must be served on the defendant, how and when pleadings must be drawn up. We can look on page 70 at this. It goes into depth of this. And then law of criminal procedures is the way someone who is suspected of a crime is prosecuted and tried. And then we have law of evidence, concerned with how evidence must be presented before the court. So there are certain ways that evidence can be presented before a court, certain ways it can't be presented. So the law of evidence really deals with how the evidence can be presented before the court, how witnesses must give their evidence in court, and the kinds of evidence that are admissible, which is acceptable or valid. Private law concerns relationships between individuals and other individuals. Law of persons is concerned with people as subjects of the law. Beginning of legal subjects, how the person comes into being. A legal subject's status is a legal position. A legal subject's end, how the person comes to an end in the eyes of the law. And we get family law, relationship between spouses, parent and child, guardian and person, subject to guardianship. Family law governs marriages and its consequences. So if you're dealing with divorces, etc., then you look into family law. Law of personality rights, right to our bodies, our reputation, our dignity. Then you get law of patrimony, which is concerned with persons and their means, whatever a person possesses that can be given in money. Law of things, which is property, things classified as movable or immovable. Movable can be moved from one place to the next, which is a car. Immovable can't be moved, fixed, a land, a house that is on a land. Ownership is rights of a property. Law of succession, who inherits from a person when they die. Testate succession applies to a person who has left a will on death. Intestate succession, someone who's not left a valid will. So if you're dealing with someone who has passed, maybe this person was young and they hadn't left a valid will, you're going to go to intestate succession. Someone who has left a will upon death, you're going to look under testate succession, but they're both under law of succession. So the deceased property will be given away with the accordance of rules of what is called intestate succession. Law of obligation. Obligation is a legal relationship between two or more parties. You've heard of the terminology, you're obligated to do this, because it's a legal relationship between two or more parties. Each party has a mutual right of performance. Each party has a corresponding duty to perform. There are three ways in which an obligation can arise: contract, delict, and unjustified enrichment. Law of contract, agreement between two or more parties in two or more parties in terms of which mutual obligation comes into existence. Law of delict, unlawful act causing damage to another property or another party. Party who suffers damages who want to claim damages or compensation from the one that caused it. A delict creates an obligation, namely a right to claim compensation and a corresponding duty to compensate. Determines what a delict is and what rights and duties arise from it. Then we have unjustified enrichment. So no one may be enriched without justification at the expense of another. No valid legal ground on which one individual can obtain a benefit at the expense of another. And then lastly, we have other areas of law. Mercantile law, which is commercial law, large and important field of law, not purely private law or public law, but a bit of both. Includes all law which relates to the broad field of commerce, company law, insolvency, negotiable instruments, tax law, and so on. Then we have labor law, which has become a very important law. It's connected to both private and public law, concerns with relationships between the employer and the employee, includes all labor relations, conflict of laws, private and international, concerned mainly with the question of which private law system applied if more than one private law system is involved. Then you get legal philosophy, looks at law from a philosophical perspective. And then I did put pointers. Activity 5.2 is extremely important. So when I was learning this unit, I went through activity 5.2 and my book is actually a complete mess, because when I went through it, as I was going through the story on page 75 that starts with one Saturday morning, if you guys can go through activity 5.2 and, you know, answer all the questions and then go through the feedback and do this like 2 or 3 times, you'd really be good to go for this unit. As you go through it, then highlight and make marks in your book. You know, this is your book, so highlight and make marks of where you see, oh, this is public law, what division of public law is it? This is private law, what division of private law is it? And so on. And if you can do this, you'll really be good to go for this. Thank you guys so much. Anyone that's writing exams, good luck. Please feel free to comment below on anything that you'd like me to elaborate more on. Thank you. Bye.